Normally, what do you normally do? Every month, you just release 2.5 million to us that cover our operational expenses. And sometimes even they how to call it, they transfer less amount. Because, for example, last year they said they approved 36 million for us. So meaning that every month they should release 3 million.
3 million, yeah.
So normally they will release 1.5 to 2 millions, which definitely affects our operation.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, the current budget you prepare for 2023.
Yes.
Is your board aware of that budget?
Yes.
No. Don't contradict yourself, Malik.
Yes. Chairman, are you aware of the budget that he submitted to the Minister of Finance? Are you aware of the budget?
No. Something was sent to the budget, to the board. It has not been approved. The board has not sat over it. And I had to demonstrate them for not doing things on time.
Well, you see, the reason why I'm asking all these questions, it seems you guys are putting the cart before the horse. And, operation-wise, it's always important you do your budget and let the board takes a look at the budget before you actually, even on your bilateral, I think it's important for the board to be there to be able to defend you. Because when they're going to look at you as an accountant, they say, oh, maybe this is junior staff. And you, as the accountant, you are dealing with the director of budget, or maybe you'll be dealing with the PS at finance. There's a likelihood that they may overpower you. And you know your operational expenses more than them. So it's always important then you prepare your budget and let the board be in the know. Then whenever you are called for bilateral, then the board can go with you to be able to defend what you really want to do. Because otherwise, like you say, instead of giving you 3 million every month, they may give you 1.5. And in fact, you are at their mercy and you don't have any control over that. And the board should be part of that. If they give you money and that's not enough for your operations, the board should be aware. And the board should be able to take that with the minister himself or the PS of finance. They should be able to do that. But at your own level, I'm not sure if you'll be able to convince the PS or the minister to be able to do otherwise. I'm not sure if you're able to do that. So what I'm saying is like, you do the things on time. You prepare in advance and discuss with the board and let the board see what you're trying to do. And when you go for bilateral, maybe it will go better for you. And when I look at your accounts, I see a lot being done, by other institutions, not the Gambia government. In fact, your entire budget, if you look at it, maybe 40% or more is being done by somebody else, and that is not sustainable. So we need to ensure that Gbos actually has what it takes from the government to be able to do their work. And to do that, the board must be at the forefront to be able to defend the Gbos budget. But without that, it's going to be really very difficult because you can't keep depending on somebody else to give you money to do certain things. That's not sustainable. Okay, so I would suggest that you engage the board more in terms of your budget so that they can understand really some of the predicaments, because your operational expenses itself, you give you 1.5 million. And then you have to be looking around for money to be able to do what. I mean, I don't think that is really very good enough. So let's ensure that we do that. Yes, go ahead. Yeah.
Just on the same point, I just want to bring the statistics. If you look at your operations, your survey cost, I think, is the primary. That's the activity which drives most of the cost. But on annual basis, if you look at the government subvention, it's never adequate to cover the survey cost. And as the chairman was saying, in 2019, 60% of your budget came from donor support. In 2018, 54% of your budget came from what? Donor support. And in 2017, 56% of your budget comes from donor support. And if you look at the survey cost itself, consistently on annual basis, it's taking between 60 to 70% of your what? Operational cost. And basically, this is the primary responsibility of Gbos. That is what you are mandated to do. So now, he have a very valid point there. But I would say this, in-house, what strategies do you have to ensure that you become financially independent? Because if not, the moment those funds stop, you will cease operations. So, Honorable Chair? Yes.
Yes.
Statistical offices are never. Okay, I use the mic. Okay, great. or countries with national planning commissions know the importance of numbers. The statistical offices are always fully funded. The only way we can have resources is to start applying for consultancies. But whenever we apply for consultancies, the agencies will say government institutions cannot apply for consultancies. So the only option we have is to rely on donor funding, and the only fund activities they're interested in. When the MDG started, the SDGs now, the only fund activities will generate indicators for them. So as you said, when this funding ceases or stops, we'll be in crisis, meaning that other than official statistics, tourism, GDP, transport, communication, I don't think Gbos can produce any other information for the Gambia like maternal mortality, infant childhood, because one survey alone can cost $30 million. One survey can cost $30 million. Our subvention could be 3 million, 2.5, 1.5, up to 1 at times. So now, there is no way out. Gbos could be financially independent. The only option we have to be fully funded by government. Now the AU have started to allocate, though that's very small, percentage of their, how to call it again, of their budget to national statistical offices. About 0.05% of the budgets should be allocated to NSOs. But unless we receive funds from government, Gbos can never be financially independent. And when these donor agencies stop their funding, we doom from this country. We'll never have data or information. Like currently we're struggling, like the census is about to come, April 2013. We're still struggling for the mapping exercise to get funding for the mapping. Still, we could not get that millions. Though expecting some funding from the World Bank, still that is yet to be approved. So in that case, based on your question, there is no way out. Gbos can be financial independence.
Oh, okay. Now, do you have the Gbos Act with you there?
Yes, I don't have it with me because
does anyone have it there?
Yeah. Maybe someone could have it.
Yes, if it is there, yes. Look at the funding. How is Gbos funded?
Yes.
On that Act of Parliament.
Okay.
Can you take a look at it and you can read it? Mali, you can check. Do you have it?
Yeah, this guy is having some.
Oh, okay, no, that's fine. Put it for Mali to read the funding of Gbos from the Act of Parliament. Left. Yes.
Left. Push hard.
Just push it. Yes.
My comment on here.
Yes. Yes. You have. Yes. Yes. You want to take an oath? Yeah. Go ahead. Just give me a minute.
I tell them. Yeah, indeed. Yeah. It makes you, just demonstrate more younger read. Emal funding. Laura teaching funding.
I, Mohammed El Jani,
do hereby affirm that
I will speak the truth,
the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
nothing else but the truth.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. You have that. Okay. Let's finish with Malik and then we come to you. Have you seen it? The funding of Gbos.
So, if you look, based on the statistical card, the financial provision of the Bureau, the funds of the Bureau shall consist of money appropriated from time to time by the National Assembly The funds of the Bureau shall consist of the following: money appropriated from time to time by the National Assembly, grants, gift, and donation from any source approved by the Secretary of State, provided that the terms and conditions attached to the grant or gift are not inconsistent with the functions of the Bureau. Any money that may come payable to the Bureau for services performed by the Bureau under this Act, and such other monies as may accrue to the Bureau under this action.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's all I wanted you to read. Deputy Director, you see, Parliament actually has given you the powers to be able to do consultancy for a fee.
Okay, the act is currently being reviewed, and I think it's at the level of Parliament or the Minister of Justice. Just to set like that, the act is almost obsolete. But as you said, government, we are empowered by the act, or Parliament has empowered us to do consultancies on black and white, on paper. Excellent, nice, but it doesn't work like that.
Okay, how does it work?
The UN agencies who give out the consultancies, they will not give consultancies to national statistical offices. They will not, I repeat, give consultancies to NSOs. When you apply it, the first thing when they're doing shortlisting is to remove statistical agencies. In fact, they even further. If they are given an assignment like to conduct demographic and health survey, a mix or other survey on child labor disability, if we put management fees, fees for the, at least to assist the, for example, to buy cars for internet, among others, fuel for the generator, it is removed. They will say that this is responsibility of the Gambia government. They cannot provide the money for you to have indicators on child mortality, disability, HIV and AIDS. We providing the money to help your government. So that being the case, you should not charge us management fees and we remove it. So consultancies is by the way, whenever we apply it, we are on sublisters because they said government institutions should not apply for consultancies.
So you mean then there is no other consultancy that you can apply in the private sector? None.
My thinking, I could be wrong. I've been in the business, I work in other countries outside the Gambia, but with due respect to many private sector institutions, they would prefer to work with individuals and governments. Do you know what I mean? Not to go into details.
No,
I stop there.
I don't know what you mean, but I do know, one thing I do know, and one thing is certain. If you don't swing, you will never hit the ball.
No, what I'm saying is, we've applied a couple of times
yes,
to consultancies advertised by private institutions, but let me just be clear. We are the only institution in the Gambia. No private firm has a sampling statistician. No private firm in the Gambia has a demographer. No private firm can do analysis in sales growth data, which we don't have the capacity. But I had, for instance, an institution called Blue Gold Solutions. I can use Doctor's Farm, for example. I put a consultancy in the market worth of $100,000. This is my experience. I would expect to have at least $20,000 back. But how can a government institution win a consultancy, and how can they work out in such a way that you get back $20,000 of that money? Impossible. So many private institutions, NGOs, and many organizations would prefer to deal with individual private consulting firms, either an individual or a firm than a government agency, in which once the money hit their accounts, how can they work around for you to get your share of the cake? That's the problem.
Yes, I think, you know,
no,
perhaps
doctor, I'm in recorded. I'm telling you what I know. I'm in this business.
Mr. Deputy Director General, I think you need to spread your net. Knocking once and the door is closed doesn't mean that door is closed forever. I cannot be a consultant. No. I'm sorry.
We are not here to tap your knowledge on that. But as agencies, we have only two options. Other than the funds provided by government, donor support is only consultancies. Now tell us, how can we penetrate the market?
Okay, that's going to be another discussion, not here.
Great.
I'm just trying to get you to know that as far as Parliament is concerned, we have given you the powers to be able to go beyond these two, government and these donor agencies. Because I tell you, the donor agencies is very risky. Because the day you ask and you don't have it, you are in trouble. And that's what we are trying to say, that maybe you need to start thinking outside the box.
Yeah, let me tell you the riskiness you've mentioned. Last week, there is a program called Multiple Indicators Cluster Survey, usually funded by UNICEF globally. Now they said they could no longer fund it from HQ. Countries need to do their own resource mobilization and do it. That survey provide almost 50 indicators, which we can use our NDP to measure many national goals, which we can use to report for the Gambia for almost 50 SDG goals, as well as Agenda 2030. But now, as you said, now UNICEF is saying they can no longer fund it, meaning that if you don't have funding, the Gambia for the NDP, the next long-term vision, we might not able to measure many of the indicators unless we have funding. Agreed. We need to have a strategy in which we have a way of mobilizing resources.
That's what I'm saying. No, that's what I'm asking for.
Hang on a sec.
Yeah.
Can you tell us the only options we have is consultancies?
Okay.
That's the only option.
That's fine. Before I get to Fofana, maybe I will refer you to, maybe you consult with the University of the Gambia, MDI, and the rest to find out exactly how are they doing their consultancies to generate funding for them. You can consult with them. Yeah. Well, that's fine. Yes, Fofana, go ahead. Okay, it seems that you know everything then. Okay. Yes. Okay, go ahead, Fofana.
Doctor, I would still be on the Honorable Chair's point. I think you have been brutally honest with the truth, very frank, and we'll probe into it a little bit. You said like many of these agencies would not like to work with government institutions because the tax they'll be carrying out is the traditional role of government, but they would rather prefer to deal with private individuals. This is the issue now. Do you have private individuals working in Gbos who have consultancy firms and they do consultancy? I just want to be direct because you were direct in your response. Sustainably. Yeah.
What I know is I'm not aware of any Gbos staff who has a private consulting firm or he is part of a consortium. What I know is, to be very frank with you, somebody could have an assignment in which he has no idea about sampling. The only sampling statistics, as I tell you, are at Gbos. This individual can consult that individual on personal basis, not through the statistics in general. So that individual or the consulting firm can engage that person and to do the sampling for him, as well as the other aspects of the engagement, be it design of the questionnaire, the screen and the analysis or report writing. That exists in almost all statistical agencies in Africa. It does exist.
Okay, my next question would be, such assignments where individual staff of Gbos will be consulted, don't they fall within the traditional role of Gbos as well?
As I told you earlier, there are certain surveys, not traditional rules. Gbos or statistical agencies are the only institutions that have the mandate, or if you just look at our acts generally, not only Gbos, that has the mandate to conduct surveys in which nobody can doubt the possibility with numbers because of the methods and the procedures they follow. So those agencies who contracted out those assignments know very well that this institution or this agency cannot do this. But as I said, I repeat, because of ABC, they will engage them, and these people will come back and engage others within the bureau. So at times, numbers are produced, the consultant will sit here and present figures, for example, on disability. Example, you go to, Pipeline Mosque, see people begging, go to Pagimar, see people begging, go to Kairaba Supermarket, and interview few people. From that, how can you estimate the prevalence of disability in the country? Data wrong. That's not English, but the data will be wrong. But whatever presented to these donors, they will prefer to take those numbers for one thing or the other, and to the extent that when these numbers are in the market, it brings confusion. You say prevalence rate of X%, and no one can tell you how they arrive at these numbers. Like if you look at the Gambia, there was a problem in 2015. There was a maternal mortality figure being circulated up to the Gambia, reported at the UN. The Gambia government saying that maternal mortality has reduced to 239. And the survey they conducted was a fistula survey. And in the fistula survey, there was no maternal mortality. So how do you estimate maternal mortality? And this numbers was in the document presented by the Gambia government in 2014-2015 in New York. And maternal mortality in the Gambia has dropped from 730 to 39. So these are some of the problems that exist with these private farms. Whenever their meteorologists are examined, you know there is a problem, but the client doesn't care. As far as he gets what he wants or she wants, then he's fine.
Yes, go ahead.
I would still go back to my question because the issue at hand is how does Gbos makes more funds? We are particular about this because we know the relevance Gbos is playing in society.
Yes.
And as a parliament, we want you to be fully funded.
Okay.
From your explanation, one can conclude that when it comes to capacity, Gbos have it.
Oh, yeah.
When it comes to competency, Gbos have it.
We do.
You have the structures. You have all the resources required.
Yes.
You are not in competition with any private firm.
Yeah.
This is my personal opinion.
That's a fact.
I believe that
Yeah.
Gbos have a more comparative advantage than any other institution when it comes to attracting contracts from what? Other agencies. You were asking the chairman to tell you one of the options where you can make money.
Yeah.
Here is one.
Go ahead.
These donor agencies, when they come, if at all they are to contract private individuals, they will pay a lot of money. Gbos here is a government institution.
Yes.
They have the staff. They have the capacity. In fact, there are fields whereby no other private institution have expertise there apart from Gbos.
Yeah.
That is a comparative advantage which you can sell to those agencies. And any running cost or the cost of the survey that they would have alternatively paid to those private individuals, they can pay to you at a lesser value.
Yes.
Am I right?
Very well.
So why do we still have a problem?
I think there is a need for us to have a session in which we're going to brief you how these donor agencies work, including World Bank, all of them. They will come here to the country and wanted to conduct a survey, for instance, access to electricity for NAWEC. Instead, they have an office, they know that Gbos exists since in the 60s, and we have the capacity to do this, that they will not come to Gbos. You will just sit one day and see that advert on papers. The only way this could be helped is, like I think you have DSP, the Office of the President, I think now the new ministry. The only way out is these people, they write to all donor agencies and make it, I don't think they can make it mandatory, in such a way that these donor agencies, whenever they come to the country and they want to conduct a survey which Gbos has the capacity, a national survey is best you appeal to them to come to Gbos and conduct it. Because the issue is not only in the Gambia, even Ghana, for instance, which has more capacity than Gambia. Ghana has 30, 40 demographers in one agencies. Ghana have a similar problem. We went there a couple of times on a study tour. Even Ghana statistical agencies, they having similar problems. So the only way, according to the Ghanaians, is they cannot control that market. The only way is for the government to be committed. They have a statistical basket in which every year, at the end of the year, when government is, how to call it again, preparing a budget, the then permanent secretary and the National Planning Commission chair has research background. They convince the president and the Minister of Finance to the extent that every year they have an untouchable statistical basket, just like a poverty basket. Swaziland, a very small country of less than, I think, 1 million compared to the Gambia. Because the Prime Minister happens to work for the World Bank for 20 years, he convinced the king that they have a statistical basket that no one can touch every year. With or without, Swaziland is one of the few countries in Africa who conduct all this service without being supported by donors. Swaziland, who have no natural resources like the Gambia, could have a plan in which they have a statistical basket untouchable to conduct their activities without donor funding. I think the Gambia should start thinking along those lines, because as I told you, you're very right, we have the capacity, we can make a difference. But how can we convince these donors to bring this over trust is a big problem, unless we have a support maybe from the Chief of Staff or from the SPD who write to all agencies and appeal to them. This is the only way we can make this agency sustainable. This is the only way we can make this agency to have finances for their extra activities. Like, for example, I conclude with this. Can anybody tell me when the last time Gambia had data on contribution of tourism to GDP? Nobody can tell me in this hall and in this country. For the past 30 years, there is no data on contribution of tourism to GDP. The 30% been cited, there is no one in this country who can tell you where the source is from. If you look at the NDP cited 16%, I mean the old one, and the 16% they cited was from the tourism master plan. And the tourism master plan was prepared in 2016, in 2006. So the 2016 in the NDP been cited was prepared way before 2000. So we have a plan in which we have a funding from the NDP. They provide funding for the first phase of the activity, establishment survey. When we had the funding, it was conducted through Gambia Tourism Board. It was through their project. So when this expires, the next stage was to have funding for the next activities to conduct contribution of tourism to GDP. UNDP said they can no longer provide the funds, let's contact government. We did that data has expired 2018, so now there is no available funds for those activities. So the only time we can have data again on contribution of tourism to GDP is now again to start the process. These are some of the few things that we need as official statistics. Is a challenge for us to get.
Yes, thank you. Before I come to, is it Manjang? Before I come to you, Deputy Director, do you have a strategic plan for Gbos? For what year?
2022.
Okay, so it's expiring this year. End of this year. So that is expiring by end of this year.
December, yeah.
Okay, in this current strategy plan, do you have anything in it that would relate to additional funding from Gbos outside donor and government?
No, we don't.
You don't have it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yes, go ahead. Yeah.
Do hereby affirm that.
Do hereby affirm that. Do hereby affirm that.
I will speak the truth,
I'll speak the truth,
the whole truth,
the whole truth,
nothing but the truth.
nothing but the truth. So help me.
Yes, thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Good morning, honorable members.
Morning.
I just want to buttress on the issue raised by the DSG. He spoke about different numbers flying in the country, unofficial numbers, not officiated by Gbos. I mean, this issue could have been resolved if we have a new act now. We revised our Statistics Act. We are currently operating under the 2005 Statistics Act. It's outdated. A lot of changes has happened in the statistical landscape. We revised it in 2019, submitted it to the Ministry of Finance, but it's still not passed into law. In that bill, we have a clause there dealing with what we call a statistics visa. This will enable Gbos to authorize people to conduct study surveys that will feature international programs. So without a visa, nobody will be able to conduct large-scale surveys. So if the honorable members can help us pass this bill, it will really help us create that enabling legal environment and then also enhance our coordinating capacity, because we are not the only agency producing statistics. There are other ministries also producing statistics for national development. So for us to also coordinate these agencies, we need the help of the National Assembly. And also, just to respond to a point made by Mr. Honorable Lang, coming to Gbos for those looking for consultancies will be more expensive than going to private institutions, because when you come to Gbos, we follow scientific standards. This means you have to spend more money. We make sure that respondents, either households or individuals, are selected randomly. Before we go to the field to collect data, we conduct listing operation to list households or individuals in these communities. This involves logistics, paying people to go there. After we do the listing, then we select the respondents scientifically. And then we go ahead to do the data collection. So this means more money. But if you go to a private consulting firm, they can just go to the field and start interviewing people. So they may not follow all the scientific steps. And science sampling is very complex. Even at UTG, they come to Gbos to do sampling for them. But we've seen a lot of people going around doing surveys without going through that step. So these are all there. Coming to Gbos is way more expensive. And I also want to inform the Assembly that Gbos is not a separate entity. We exist to support government. We are producing to support government to plan to evaluate programs and know where we are headed. So it will not be a bad idea if government spends money on statistics, because without data, we don't know where we are. We don't know what our problems are. And whenever I go into our regions, I tell governors, you need data to know what your problems are. Without data, you don't even know where to start. So it will not be a bad idea. Like, for example, in Uganda, government funds all statistical activities. They'll say, why do we need the donors? We need this data. We are not doing this for them. We need this data to measure our progress. So in as much as it's open for us to look for other venues, but also it's important for government to pump money into statistics, looking at the importance of statistics in development. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Manjang. And again, this is exactly what we are trying to look at. We want you to think outside the box, look outside the box. Those two agencies, like government and the other sectors, in the long run, you will not be able to get what you want. But having this law where anyone that's going to conduct, service in this country have to pass through you, this is exactly what I'm talking about. This is an additional revenue that you can actually have. It's kind of like you're going to be an authority over other institutions. If they come, you have to register with you. Then you check whether they have the capacity, whether they have the know-how, etc., etc. And they do that for a fee. And that's exactly Parliament's foresight in putting that third option. That's why it's there. Like you can consultancy or an oversight where people can come consult with you. And don't only look at Gambia only. Think about outside Gambia that you can actually do when you look for additional funding. That's all what we are trying to say. Okay, so no, we are not talking. I'm just saying, think outside it. I'm just giving an example that you can have the authority to allow institutions to be able to register with you before they can do any survey in this country. No, come on now, DJ. Maybe you're completely wrong, actually. Completely wrong. Yes. No. How can you think that way? That's completely wrong. Yes, horrible.
Thank you. Jana, just a moment before you come. Thank you for that clarification, Mr. Manja. But it got me more confused. Because with your explanation, it's like the private firms, at the end of the day, the survey data they produce is unreliable. That's exactly what you were trying to tell us. And sadly, some of those data is what would be used, and then they'll be referenced back to this country. So unless and until I'm getting you wrong, I get it right. So that is a cause for concern. That is a real cause for concern. And it comes back to a purview. I think what we are trying to do here is to make sure that Gbos is funded adequately. This is the rationale behind everything we are doing, because Parliament is there to make sure that state institutions, departments, and agencies function adequately. So for them to do that, one is to appraise and look at the resources they receive, towards in alignment to what their responsibilities. But now I would ask this question: what does the law say about who is responsible? Statistical data. One, and if at all there is a misrepresentation, what are the punitive measures? We want to know whether there is a gap in legislation, because, what he is trying to tell us is donor agencies can come to this country with fund. And mark you, I'm not a statistician, but I know one thing. Be it WHO, be it UN or whatsoever agency they might be, they would not conduct a survey out of a vacuum. The data is there to serve a purpose. So saying they are doing it in our country alone is not sufficient for them to say where to put the money. They also need the data for their own survival. They need it as an agency. They are not doing it for free. The Gambia is not an island. We are part of the global village. So I think we need to know that. We definitely need to know that and value what we have, no matter how small we might be, but for a purpose. So let us know, is there a gap in legislation? That is why people are taking it for granted. They can come out, take funding, at the end of the day, do a survey whose result will be unreliable. Thank you.
So
You want to say something?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I don't think there's a gap in legislation. I think it's a question of using the authority that is already available at our disposal. if an external agency wants to use on somebody or a group without the proper credentials, I have pointed out to the Bureau before that they should highlight their concerns. I think this is the first step. They shouldn't allow data that's questionable to be out there. Pending the approval of this bill, we should not be lax in allowing data that's confusing to be generated. I have recalled instances in the past where there was no specific legislation to take action on private individuals' activities. But there was related legislation, like if you talking about standards, ISO standards here and environmental standards there, one can always find a way of stopping an activity that would not have an outcome that is desirable. So in a way, we could call the attention of these donors to the risk they're incurring in engaging certain actors. Like Mr. Mandang said, Gbos services may be more expensive, but there's the quality that Gbos brings to the work. I think I would go back again on the question of funding to the remarks earlier made by the chair on the budget process. I think I've made this point, and I'm glad that he made this point about the need to do things in a proper order and coordinated with the council. And based on that, that's where our needs should be presented to government. Whether government provides the money or not, we should put our needs clearly black and white. In my statement last week, I recall that heads of government made a pledge in the strategic harmonization studies in Africa to ramp up funding to 0.15% of the national budget. That's something we must hold our government accountable to. Whether it's done in the next 3 years, 5 years, but at least we should see some progress in that direction so that we have financial independence to provide the statistics that drive decision and policy making for government. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Before we continue, there's a vehicle that's blocking, WCR 8843. WCR 8843. If it is your vehicle, can you move it? Because I think it's blocking some other people for them to be able to come in. All right. Yes. Good. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. You said there is no gap in legislation, but it's an issue of using the authority at hand to do the needful. Does that in any way insinuate the fact that there are surveys being conducted where Gbos knows for sure that those survey results are not reliable, but for one reason or the other, the agency doesn't act to ensure that the law is applied? I'm just trying to understand your statement. Are you saying that the agency is aware of certain statistical data and they are not using the law at hand to serve as a deterrent or not?
As has been mentioned before, about the procurement process of certain institutions or, let's say, clients, in the methods that are used, in the expertise behind the generation of the data, there is a reasonable doubt about the quality of the data. Gbos cannot be certain because it did not have the opportunity to run those samples.
In that case, what does the law ask you to do? Where there's an element of uncertainty, what does the law ask you to do, and what do you mean by saying that it's a question of using our authority? That's all the clarification we need to move on.
Yes, can we get Manjang here from Manjang before we continue? Yes, take the microphone here. Be careful.
All right. Currently, the statistics in the 2005 Statistics Act, there is no clause that stops anybody from conducting a survey. And there is nothing in the act that says anything about repercussions. So people can go out there, conduct their surveys, but Gbos has no legal backing to take action against these people. That's why in the revised bill, we included this visa that should authorize anybody who wants to conduct surveys of national importance, nationwide surveys, they need to get official permission from Gambia Bureau of Statistics. The 2005 Statistics Act, it's outdated. The Act does not empower us to even properly coordinate the national statistical system. For example, if agriculture wants to do the National Agricultural Survey, and they can say, no, this is our mandate. It's our mandate to do this. And what can Gbos do? Yeah, so if the Act also conflicts with other legislations, so what should the National Statistics Office do? I think you need to look at the bill we submitted to Parliament to properly empower us so that we can do our job properly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Manjang. And Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for the clarification. Now, the other area now we need to get some clarification is about the loan policy you have. Maybe that should go to Malik. Do you have a committee for loans that will do the approval?
Yeah. Yes, we have a committee.
Okay. Who are the members?
The members is the Statistician General, the Finance.
Finance. Who are finance? Is it
the head of finance?
Head of finance. Okay.
Yes. We have the admin officer.
Admin
officer.
The admin is it the admin officer?
Yes.
You mean is it director or
the director?
Director. Okay.
Yes.
Admin, okay.
Yes.
So it's just
and the audit, internal audit.
And the internal auditor.
Yes.
So the internal auditor is part of the
part of the committee.
Part of this committee.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. They're the one that's supposed to check. You are there approving, and you're also there checking. So you need to look at that, Mr. Chairman. You can take a look at that that policy about having the internal auditor to be part of the loans committee. You need to take a look at that just to ensure that it's separated, because otherwise they'll be approving and then they come and check. Because under normal circumstances, when somebody applies for a loan, the committee looks at it, and before the loan is disbursed, somebody needs to come and check to ensure that all the rules and regulations actually are applied. And normally that should be done by internal audit. And if the internal audit is now on the committee, that would create some kind of conflict also. So you may want to take a look at that. Right. So, Malik, how do you provide guarantees for those loans, like personal, car, or otherwise? What is the requirement for somebody to be given those loans in terms of a guarantee?
In terms of guarantee, like the individuals should be at a certain grade. Not everybody is entitled to a car loan, and also like when loans are given out, a collateral. The individual should provide a collateral, meaning like two of a senior officer in the bureau should guarantee the individual, and the insurance of the car should be in the should be in Gbos and the individual individual staff. Yes.
So how about the title of the car? Whose name is it going to be?
It should be in the name of Gbos.
Name of Gbos.
Yes.
Okay, and the insurance name of the Gbos and the person.
Yes.
Okay.
It's a joint district.
Okay. Now, who verifies? For example, when you give out, let's say you issue out a loan, car loan to Manjang, for example.
Yes.
And here in Gambia, sometimes every 6 months or every year you need to change the insurance.
Yes.
Who makes sure that Manjang actually changes that insurance? Who makes sure? Who checks?
It is the admin department will check whether every year individual change their insurance in the name of Gbos and in the name of Gbos and the person who took the other.
Yeah, because we have seen instances here where they say that there was no insurance cover for particular staff, and then that was on a car loan.
Yes.
And that's really very risky, because if the car is involved in an accident or so and it's total, meaning that's a big loss to Gbos, because there is no insurance company that will pay you. I'm not too sure exactly why that escaped admin, since they are responsible. And here we have 3 staff. One had 250,000. The other one also, actually, each one of them actually had 250,000 loan, and they didn't have any insurance cover in file.
Yeah, I can respond to that.
Yeah.
One of the staff was on study, overseas study, and at the end of that year, he was not in town, so the car was parked. That's why he could not, renew the license, the insurance at that time.
Who parked the car? Is it Gbos or himself, the person?
Himself and Gbos.
How?
The car was parked in Gbos.
The car was parked at the Gbos premises?
Yes.
Okay. How about the others? Because they cited 3 instances. You've just cleared one, that the person went on study or went on leave, study, and the car was parked at Gbos. How about the other 2?
Which page? Can I get the page?
Page 105. Yes. Yes, let him just verify, then after you can come with your question. Yeah.
So the other ones, like when that was noticed by the auditors, immediately we contacted and the insurance were provided. Yes.
All right. Thank you very much. Yes, Honorable.
Yes, I was just going to ask him, how long do they intend to park this car? Since the guy traveled, and do you have a time frame, or do you know the time when he'll be back? And if he's not coming now, I don't know for what purpose of his travel. So how long do you intend to park this car? And if he's not coming, what do you have in mind to do with this car?
No, already it's a master's program he went for, and currently he's doing his PhD. He was here before, and all the documentation for the car was provided before he left for his PhD program. It's just, I think it's 2 years.
But remember, this is a public fund.
Yes.
And this car is running for the country through the entire 2 years.
Now, what I'm saying, the guy was here, and all the documentation regarding car was provided before he left. The insurance, and currently he's also servicing the loans.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think the last thing from my side is about reconciliation, the monthly bank reconciliation that you actually do.
Yes.
How is the process? Who does the reconciliation from your end?
Like the reconciliation is done by my assistant
Okay.
and verified by me and endorsed by the statistician general.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
So, and you have a record of that file?
Yes.
That somebody can come and verify that last month a reconciliation was done,
Yes.
and there was sign off and there was no issue. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And the issue sometimes also we have problem of receiving our bank statement from the bank.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
On time, yeah.
They are on time. That's normally delays our reconciliation.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much, honorable members. If you have anything else that you want to ask, and yes, dates.
There are challenges, rather.
Yes. Well, Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure if you. I know you've indicated somewhere about the challenges you actually have. I think this was your statement. The constraints, basically about the budget, but I think we did talk about the budget already, and the space. The office space to accommodate more staff is limited. Also added to inadequate funding to support in the production of diverse statistical information for the public use of local statistical training center or statistics training program at the University of the Gambia. I think this we were able to capture that. These are some of the constraints. Are there any other constraints that you guys actually encounter? But I know the biggest issue is the budget that you actually have. Yes, sir. Somebody's behind you.
Yes, one of the biggest constraints we have, we still come back to budget. We are supposed to start the population and housing census next year. We need a budget of $8.5 million. And the mapping is in two phases. The first phase is mapping, and we are supposed to digitalize the whole country. We're supposed to have a digital the whole country. And this was supposed to start at least no statistical sample 8.5.
Perhaps when we meet during the budget, maybe we can see what